Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever or wherever you're listening to or watching us. This is the Awesemo Nhl Dfs strategy show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Jumping into this rickety old boat to head to a tournament that will decide the fate of the realm is our very own Johnny Cage-like superstar, Joshua Harris. Josh, how we doing today, bud?
I have some really expensive sunglasses, but I can't curse, so I got reprimanded yesterday for it, so I got to watch my mouth. So,
but were they $500 sunglasses though?
No, they were a little bit less. I'm not a diva anymore.
Okay.
But, no, I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice little Saturday afternoon. We got some early baseball. We have some early hockey. Lots of sports going on, man. It's crazy. I've been doing a bunch of DFS and both sports, and I'm way more tired than I normally am. It's crazy, multi-sporting.
Yeah, I don't know how. That's one thing I've talked about often in the past. I don't know how people play multiple DFS sports like seriously at the same time. Like I can get to about two, like maybe playing like esports and NHL at the same time or something like that. But esports is usually like in the middle of the night or something like that. It's not the same lock as NHL. I honestly don't know how people do that. Like kudos to anybody that can sit there and go through, 300 or 400 lineups simultaneously, because I can't.
Yeah,
Crazy slate last night. And I say that because, a lot of slates, when I say crazy slate, it's, one person breaks a slate or one team puts up 8 goals or something like that. That wasn't really the case last night. We had a lot of low scoring games on the slate. Capitals Devils went to overtime, only 3 goals. Maple Leafs Jets went to a shootout, only 2 goals. Flames Oilers, like the most goals scored last night in any game was Arizona Anaheim with 6. Um, congratulations to Dustin JockMKT, another one of our subs. Tied for first in the 20 max last night. I think that's the second time he's tied for the first in the 20 max in the last month. And he has a solo win on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, besides that. So he's had a pretty good month over the last month. Congratulations to Dustin. I saw a couple other people posting 4X and 5X screenshots. Good on you guys. I certainly didn't get there last night. I went heavy on Toronto. In Toronto, really didn't do anything. You really needed Colorado 1 last night. A lot of top lines didn't do a whole lot, but a couple goals from Nathan McKinnon, a couple assists from Gabriel Landeskog. Colorado 1 was the play last night.
Yeah, and Mikko Rantanen had like one shot on goal. That was it. But like you needed McKinnon. If you needed McKinnon over McDavid, and you needed him over Matthews. So, and then Tomas Hertl and that San Jose second line, you needed them too to really have any chance at elite money. But it's kind of weird. Like those mid-range slates, you kind of hope there's multiple paths to victory. But last night, it seemed pretty narrow. The road was a pretty narrow street.
Yeah, the road was pretty narrow, pretty much. Colorado, Arizona, San Jose, you had to have some mix of those 3 teams. I can't believe you didn't mention Party Marty. Your boy, 30 save shutout. Come on.
I'm mad at him because I was forced to use him the other night. And if he had a 30 save shutout, I would have won the 40. Jake, I know Jake, he's on vacation in somewhere in the Southeast. He went one lineup based off the show, and he ended up having a good night. He used Martin Jones in net, which I guess he didn't really listen to anything I said, so he had a good night. So, and I see in the chat here, the YouTube chat, someone says, Scott says, can't say enough about the help here. Finished 4th out of 4,756 in the quarter jukebox, small stakes, but got to start learning somewhere. That's stuff you love to see. No matter what the stakes are, whether it's 25 cents or $350. Winning is winning. You grind where you're comfortable, and you win at the stakes you play at. And I love to see subscribers having success.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like everybody has to start from somewhere, man. Not a lot of people can just drop 50K into their DK account to get started in DFS. So starting small and growing it, that's what we're all about. We definitely love to see that. Just want to remind everybody that if you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, almost all of our Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest. Just leave a 5-star review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address, and you'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews will be eligible to win for up to 1 year. So you can win this summer, next winter, next spring, up to 1 year. Good luck. And while you guys are here, if you could, a big way to help us out, if you're not full-time Awesemo subscribers, if you just like to drop in and check out our shows once in a while or read our content, that's fine with us. We like that too. But if you want to help us out in a little way, please like and subscribe. Really helps us grow this channel, helps us get to the top of the algorithm. And it just really helps us out in a small way. And more people that do that, the more likely we are to keep these shows coming. And we have hours and hours of shows on a daily basis now. So just drop a like and subscribe and click the notification button if you want to get notified whenever we do go on the air. We do have 8 games to break down tonight, so let's start breaking these games down. We'll get to our first one. New York Rangers have a 3.7 implied goal total. I think that may have come up a little bit during the day, actually, which says a lot about the spot here tonight. At Buffalo Sabres with a 2.4 implied goal total. Everybody went in on this spot a couple nights ago. I think 2 nights ago, it was this exact same game, and it was on a 9-game slate. And a lot of the Rangers' top 6 were over 20%, over 15%. Like, they were fairly highly owned. Didn't really come through. Dustin Tokarski had like a 45 save game or something like that. We're not showing a ton of ownership on the Rangers right now. About 10% for the second line, about 7% for the first line. I assume that comes up, probably both lines somewhere in the 10 to 15% range at least. But for good reason. This is a really good spot. So they're your boys here, Josh. So why don't you talk about the Rangers?
Yeah, it's crazy because they're expensive. Like, their price reflects their total. The top line's 20.4K, the second line's 18.1K. And normally, like, that would be concerning on an 8-game slate, but really the only super expensive spot besides them is Florida and Colorado. There's no McDavid, there's no Matthews. There is Vegas, but we'll get to that later, but it's probably going to be Cody Glass on the top line. So he'll be min price. So I kind of understand why the ownership is a little bit lower. I would expect it to be higher towards lock, and maybe they end up 15-20%, but there's not really, it's the same strategy that I was using a few nights ago that I would want to use tonight. The problem is, right, so you can use the top line, you can use the second line. The second line I prefer. They've been better, but they're 18.1K. Kakko's up. He's still 3,300, so that won't kill you. It is a little bit tough putting in 6,500 Ryan Strome, but he's had a great season. Panarin's, they're obviously their best player, 8,300. You could power play stack because the Rangers did get a couple power plays last game. They got more than a couple. Tokarski played out of his mind, but the problem is, like, they're expensive because power play 1 is Kreider, 5,900, Zibanejad, 8,100, Panarin, 8,300, Strome, 6,500, and Fox is up to 7,000. So if you're power play stacking, it's going to get really pricey, and you're going to have to dumpster dive to fill in the rest of your lineup. So really, I think if you're going to full stack a line, if you want to stack the top line, I think that's perfectly fine. You're just going to have to use a much cheaper secondary stack. I think my favorite stack from this game is the second line. You want to include Kakko. He does get secondary power play time. He has been playing much better. And if you're going to use that second line, you can't get to Fox. I think Jacob Trouba is a very good play tonight at 4,000. He's going to be a very good one-off. And even if you want to get to the third line, if you want to go back to like a Colorado power play, I think you can 2-man Hedl and Lafreniere. They're 6,400 for the duo. I think it's going to be a nice filler, and they're going to be way lower owned than the top 6 of the Rangers. And then on the Buffalo side, like, I don't think I'm going to be full stacking anybody. If I was going to full stack a line, maybe it would be the Olofsson, Reinhart, Okposo line. But really, it's more, if I had to use them, I'd probably one off a couple people. Like, if I was power play stacking, I needed a cheap center, it'd be Middlestat. If I needed a cheap winger, it might be Jeff Skinner or Olofsson, something like that. Or maybe pick off Dahlin on the blue line. But really, this is a tough spot for the Sabres. They did score twice last game, but how many times can you count on them scoring more than 2 goals in this spot?
Yeah, that's a good point. How many times can we can't rely on them to score more than 2 goals? Probably not very often. I agree with your assessment of Buffalo. There's just not really a lot that we can look at and feel comfortable with here. I don't think I'm going to be taking any forwards. One of the defensemen that is of interest to me is Jacob Bryson, second amongst their defensemen in ice time over the last couple weeks. If the Rangers can put up the shot volume that they put up the other night, he has a serious chance for that shot block bonus at 3,300. So don't mind Jacob Bryson as a one-off. But for me, it's all about the Rangers. Now, when we talk about super chalky spots like the Rangers are, one thing we often talk about is dropping down lines. Like, if Rangers 1 was going to be 20-25%, you drop down to Rangers 2, hopefully get them at 10 to 15%. Unfortunately, because of the price difference and because how well if Strome and Panarin are playing, like you mentioned how well Ryan Strome's playing. His offensive play driving this year is nearly 3 standard deviations above league average. He's been truly among the elite in driving offense this year. So I don't have any problem paying his price. So, usually you look for the ownership savings on Rangers too. I don't think we're going to get much there, but I'm still going to use them because I think they're just playing better than the top line at the moment. And and this is a situation where if you want to use the Rangers top line, I'd say absolutely go right ahead. Zibanejad, his expected goals has turned around. His shot rate has turned around, those things. He has shown a lot of signs of turnaround. I'm just going to Rangers too, because if I have to pick one or the other, I'm going to pick the line that's playing better or has played better this year, playing better at the moment. And that's Rangers too. So I'm in on them. And you mentioned Kakko. He looks way, way better than he did last year. It's just a good line. They're just a really good line. So I'm in on Rangers too. I like the Rangers 3 call. I think that's probably where you want to go if on this team. If you want to fit in some Colorado or some Florida later on or something like that. Really do like Rangers 3. On the blue line, Fox is expensive, but I'm going to try to get him in where I can. Otherwise, I agree with you. Dropping down to Trouba on the Buffalo side, like I said, is probably just Bryson for me.
Yeah. I mean, Keandre Miller, if you still want to use him 3,100 power play too, I think that's fine as well. He hasn't, he's kind of, I don't know if he hit his rookie wall or what, but his play has dropped a little bit, but he's still playing at a high level. His just peripherals haven't been great for DFS recently.
Yeah, I agree with that's kind of why I was going with Trouba, is because I think I'd rather just pay up the difference. If I can't, fit in Miller without changing my lineup, then fine, just put in Miller, or fit in Trouba, then just put in Miller. But I'd try to put in Trouba if I could. Now we have to talk about Linus Ullmark, 6,800 on DK. We always talk about cheap goalies. I mean, man, 2 nights ago, Dustin Tokarski, 45 saves, right? He's got to be on the radar.
Oh yeah, if we were talking about playing Dustin Tokarski, we have to talk about playing Linus Ullmark. I think, again, he's not going to be a priority because I really love the Rangers spot, but in lineups you're not using the Rangers, I think you can definitely consider using Ullmark, especially if the Rangers repeat the shot volume, which isn't out of the realm of crazy things, right? They put up 48 shots last game. Maybe they don't get that, but they for sure are going to get over 30. So Ullmark definitely in play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm heavy on Rangers, but I'm going to pick some spots in my non-Rangers lineups to slide in some Ullmark. All right, let's get to our next game. We have the Philadelphia Flyers with a 2.5 implied goal total. They're going into New York to face the Islanders. The Islanders have a 3.1 implied goal total. Flyers have changed back their lineups a little bit. JVR, Couturier, Farabee expected to be the top line, with a second line of Travis Konechny, Claude Giroux, and Jakub Voracek for Philly. Not really expecting anything too different on the Islanders side. One thing I will mention is that Noah Dobson was back in their last game. He had been on the COVID list for a couple weeks. He was a guy that we were using earlier. He was getting power play time and all that, but he played under 14 minutes. Something to watch about with Dobson. Now, Philly's price has dropped. That's one thing we have to mention here. Remember, it wasn't long ago that, James Van Riemsdyk was like 7,200 and Sean Couturier was over $7,000 and Joel Farabee was like 6,500. Those prices have all come down like $500 to $1,000 per player. So while I agree Philly hasn't been looking very good lately, let's say, they are being priced down somewhat appropriately. So I think we at least have to talk about. Why don't you just let us know if there's anything you like on the Philly side, and then jump on over to the Islanders.
Yeah, I think this is a MME game. I don't think I'm going to get to anything in 1 to 3 lineups here, but there are some decent, spots you can get to in MME, especially if you're building 150. I think you can definitely have some exposure to this game. So the Couturier, Farabee, Van Riemsdyk line is going to get Isles 2 because they've been sending out the, Nelson against the top comp. And that's just a tough matchup for both lines, I think. Farabee, he's young, not a great defenseman, but Couturier has looked a bit better since the news has come out, his hip injury. He had a hip injury. So really, even in MME, I think I'd be under the field in both Isles 2 and Philly 1 here. And if you start dropping down on Philly, you go to Konechny, Giroux, Voracek. They're probably going to get the JGP, Wahlstrom, Johnston line. And if there's a line on the Isles, because they're a very good defensive team that you want to take advantage of, I don't know if, take advantage of, because Pageau and Wahlstrom have been very good this season, but, Ross Johnston is just a plug. So if you had to go somewhere on the Flyers, I think it would be that line or the third line, because the third line is going to get the Barzal, Eberle, Komarov line. And again, like Uncle Leo is just, what he is at this point. He's just a passenger on the ship. So if I had to use someone on the Flyers and I was MMEing, I'd have a little bit of the second line, Voracek, Giroux, Konechny, and a little bit of that third line, maybe even a bit more of the third line, just because they're cheaper. They're 10,000 is the full line. They're going to get, the Barzal line. So the 10,000, I think, is a decent filler. I'm not a huge Nolan Patrick guy, but he is min-priced. He does correlate with Hayes on the second power play. I do like Lindblom if he is there. You just got to make sure he's there. AV, doesn't really give you much before the games. It could end up being like, they could end up playing the Lawton, Raffle, Aube, Kubel line more. So I think it's just tough, like putting in 1 to 3 or even, like 3 to 10, something like that. Like playing the bottom 6 here, because you don't know if Hayes, Lindblom, Patrick, or Raffle, Lawton, Aube, Kubel are going to get the more minutes. So in limited amount of lineups, I think the safest MME option would be the second line. If you want to have some of the top line, I think that's fine. But for me, in MME, it would be the second line. And then on the Islanders side, I do like the top line, but it does feel like we're chasing again because Barzal's coming off a monster game. I mean, they aren't projected for very high ownership. So if they are going to be around 2-3%, I think I would get over the field in MME. You don't need much. I mean, I probably have 2 to 3 times the field there just because the Flyers have been pretty rough defensively. So if they are going to be super low owned like that, I think you can get there. The second line, we're seeing some ownership on. They're going to get the Couturier line. So I think I'd be under the field there. And then I do like the Wahlstrom JGP pairing. But other than that, this is really an MME game for me.
Yeah, I will say the line matching is what's dictating a lot of interest for me here in this game, because they're going to send out the Beauvillier Nelson line likely against the top line for Philly. So like, though I know Couturier has been bad, but that would just kind of negate both lines for me a little bit. The Islanders sent out their fourth line against Philly 2 in the last game, and that kind of interested me. Like, I know the Islanders' fourth line isn't like a typical fourth line. Like, they're not awful, but it's not a matchup that scares me. This isn't Radek Faksa in Dallas or something like that, right? Like, so I'm probably interested a little bit in Philly 2. That's where I would go on their side, especially with Giroux and Voracek having top power play correlation. I just think, you get away from probably the worst matchup, which would be going against Islanders 1. The problem is like the Islanders are a top 10 defensive team and they don't take any penalties, and the Flyers just look like garbage. Like, I wrote this down. This is kind of a crazy stat. Now that we've talked about both the Rangers and the Flyers already, the Rangers over the last month have 9 forwards with at least 0.75 individual expected goals per game. The Flyers have one forward over 0.75 individual expected goals per game over the last month, and the Rangers have 9. That kind of goes to show which direction these two teams are going. I'm pretty much out on the Flyers. I might have like one piece of that second line. That's about it. For me, I'm going back. Shouldn't say I'm going back because I missed out on the Barzal smash game, but I am going to Barzal here. He'll get a lot of depth matchups. And I know Komarov on the wing is a detriment, but as long as he gets depth matchups, I think it definitely puts him in play. So Islanders 1 for me, and maybe a little bit of Philly 2. I haven't really decided yet. On the blue line, I'm probably just correlating with my power plays, and that's it. There isn't really a guy that I'm saying I got to play out of this game.
Yeah, I forgot who tweeted it. Someone was tweeting like how Sanheim and Myers have been playing absolutely terrible lately. So, I mean, they still block shots and whatever. They're under 3K. So if you want to one off them, they're fine. But their game has dropped off pretty drastically from last year. I still think they're an okay one off if you need someone under 3K. But I agree with you, just correlating. And then with Dobson, I know he played 14 minutes, but it was his first game back in a few weeks. So I would imagine his minutes increase gradually. So maybe I would be off of him tonight. But if he's up to like 17, 18 minutes tonight, I think we can start playing him going forward.
I like that. In net, I'm not playing a Flyers goalie, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Are you playing Varlamov?
Just in correlated Islanders lineups, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. He's not a guy that I'm targeting outright. All right. Every day over here at Awesemo, we have free content. Like I shouldn't say every day. Almost every day we have free content to give away. Today is no different than usual. We have NHL player projections and NBA player projections up for free on the site. So if you want to play some NHL, you want to play some NBA tonight, we have you covered. Head on over to awesemo.com. Free NHL and NBA player projections for today. In MLB opening day a couple days ago, I'm still thinking of that Jays Yankees game, man. That was just such an awesome game to watch. I'm mad I only saw the last couple innings, but that's for another day. It was a couple days ago. It was an awesome day. And to celebrate opening day, we have a deal for you guys. Get your first 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB for only $9 when you use the promo code STARTING9. That's STARTING9 with the numeral 9. This gives you access to everything we have to offer for MLB DFS, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and our premium Slack channel. This offer is valid all the way through April 9th. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus MLB today. Go to awesemo.com, promo code STARTING9 with the numeral 9 for 9 days for $9. And when you join Awesemo Plus, it's more than just subscribing to a website. You really join a community here. The NHL community in particular is something we're pretty proud of. We help each other out. We talk strategy, share information, all that stuff all throughout the day. The tools and projections are great, but when you get the premium Slack channel, you can talk about all those things with us. You can talk them with fellow subscribers. There are office hours with Awesemo experts. You can stay up to date with the latest updates to projections from Alex Awesemo Baker himself. A lot of our subscribers really like it. So if you're looking for a spot where you can talk hockey, where you can talk baseball, where you can talk strategy, DFS strategy, whatever, join Awesemo. Head on over to awesemo.com. Join us with an Awesemo Plus Platinum package. You get all that good stuff included with it. All right, let's get back to the games. Let's get to Dallas with a 2.5 implied goal total going into Carolina. Carolina has a 3.1 implied goal total. I'll say right off the top that Anton Khudobin had a positive COVID test this morning. The coach said that they're hoping it's a false positive. But we saw, was it 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago, where Calgary or Vancouver had a positive COVID test, and then the game was canceled about 90 minutes before lock. Something to really watch here with Dallas and Carolina. For now, we assume the game's playing. They're going to be doing rapid testing or whatever, probably here in a couple hours. So we'll know more about 3 hours from now. For now, we have to assume the game is going to play. So Dallas going into Carolina. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, it might be a false positive because Khudobin had a really bad case of COVID in the offseason, didn't he?
They said he had it 4 months ago or something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, that's something to keep an eye on. But I do kind of like this top line for the Stars tonight. Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski. They're going to get the, probably the Svechnikov, Trocheck, Fost matchup, which isn't great, but Stars, you don't really play the Stars for 5-on-5. You play them for the power play, and they're fully correlated on the power play. The second line, fully correlated on the second power play. Ben, Foska, Guryanov going to get the Aho, Netchus, McGinn matchup. I think you can use them as a filler in MME. I don't mind that at all. So I do like this top line. I think they're the preferred line for me on Dallas. They will have to be in consideration for me in 1 to 3. And then getting to the Carolina side, that Aho, McGinn, Netchus line is going to get the Fasca line. So that kind of takes me off them. I don't really like going into Fasca, even though it is Guryanov and Ben on the wings, not Calgiano and Como. The second line going up against the Stars top line, I think it's an okay matchup. They are a bit pricey. Jesper Foss's game time decision, but I'm expecting him to play. If it is, you build with him. If it's not, Jordan Martinook skated there this morning. It's an easy swap down. But where I like the Hurricanes tonight is this third line. They're going to get the depth of the Stars, the Niederreiter, Stahl, McLovin line. I think, they're not super cheap, but I think they're a decent filler tonight. They're probably going to be one of the lower owned usable line. They're probably going to be the lowest owned usable line in this game. So I kind of like them as a filler. They're going to be low owned. The power play correlation is not good at all, but they do have, stalls on the top power play unit. So I think my favorites from this game are Dallas 1 and then Carolina 3.
Yeah, Dallas 1, I'm glad you mentioned. They were one that I put in. They've just been playing really, really well together. 2.9 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 56% expected goal share. Maybe they get a bit of a tough matchup. Like going into Carolina is never an easy matchup, but I believe in that line and how good they are together, and in their ownership is the big thing, right? We have their ownership coming in at about 2%. And they're in the range with that Rangers second line, where I said that I think the Rangers second line and the Rangers top line is going to come up in ownership a little bit. Dallas 1 is in that price range with them. So that would be one of the lines that may even get lower ownership than what we're already showing. Like, that's just me conjecturing a little bit, but I don't imagine Dallas 1 comes up, above 5%. So you don't need a lot of them here tonight. I'm probably going to have them in 2 or 3 out of my 20 lineups, but I do like Dallas 1. On the Carolina side, I'm pretty much out on Carolina. I don't think I have a single stack. I don't like that Aho. Really, he's just not skating with a lot. Like, I know, like, I don't think Aho is the guy I want to target. Trocheck, like, his price is going up. Dallas, like, they're top 3 by 5-on-5 expected goals against over the last month. Top 10 by penalty kill expected goals against over the last month, and the least amount of time shorthanded per game over the last month, which, if you remember back earlier in the season, we used to pick on Dallas for how many penalties they used to take. They're just not taking penalties anymore. Like, we're talking a couple of games over the last month. So I'm out on Carolina mostly. I might one off some guys, like I might one off a Niederreiter or a Slavin or something like that. But that's about it. On the blue line, Miro Heiskanen is the guy that's jumping out for me. Over 25 minutes per game, over his last 3.5 shots per game. I see you nodding your head, so you must be a Heiskanen guy here tonight.
Yeah, I love Heiskanen tonight, especially he's $400 cheaper than Klingberg. They both play power play 1. He's going to come in lower owned than Klingberg. And another, like, if you want a full power play stack, like, people don't like putting in 2 defensemen from the same team in a power play stack. So if you go all 5 there, you're going to get them pretty low owned. And it's a show with me, so I am obligated to mention Jamie Alexiak. I'm contractually obligated.
Yeah, the big rig. Don't mind him for 3K either. Oh, wanted to mention real quick, Vincent Trocheck was moved up to the top power play unit in warm-up or morning skate this morning when they practiced the power play, assuming Jordan Stahl gets the boot to the second power play unit. I like Jake Ottinger here tonight. Like, Carolina takes a lot of, like, I know Dallas doesn't allow a lot of shots, but Carolina does take a lot of shots. And Ottinger's cheap. So,
yep. Come for the expected goals, stay for no goals. So I'm on board with the Dallas goals.
The Carolina motto: come for the expected goals, stay for the shutout. All right. Yeah, I'm with you right there. All right. We'll get to our next game then. Columbus Blue Jackets have a 2.6 implied goal total. They're going into Florida. Florida has a 3.0 implied goal total, though I think that's probably come up through the day as the big news announced Alexander Barkov expected back tonight for Florida, as is Patrick Hornqvist. So aside from Ekblad, I guess Duclair's still out, so they don't have the Duclair on the top line, and Ekblad's still out, but they're starting to get healthy. On the Columbus side, Jack Rozovic, healthy scratch. Remember a month ago when everybody's like, oh man, what a great trade. Columbus made out like bandits. Well, healthy scratch. There you go. They're going 11-7 tonight. So if you thought Columbus mixed up their lines a lot before, wait until they try to play with an odd number of forwards. What do you like, man?
So on the Columbus side, I'm off full stacking any line, I think. I mean, like, Torts is tough enough when he's running a normal 12-6, but 11-7, that he's going to go full blender. He's just going to stand back there with his arms like this, going, and just like wave his wand and just mix shit up. So, oh, look at me cursing again. So, like, I think if I was going to one off anybody, it'd be, maybe a one off Boone Jenner because he's on the top power play, 3,600. Maybe a Cam Atkinson or Oliver Bjorkstrand, or even Line A at 4,500. If they do get on the power play line, it can, get a couple in there. So I don't mind a couple one-offs there, but I'd probably be well under the field on the Jackets. On the Panthers side, this is tough because one, Barkov, Hornqvist are first game back, and they have Mason Marchment on the top line, and Barkov is 8,500. Like, that's like Matthews, McKinnon territory. Yeah, Barkov's been great this year. Don't get me wrong. Like, he should be priced up with that, but this is his first game back after, a while. And what we like to do with the Panthers here is usually, put in Barkov and then put in the power play guys. But you jump down to the second line, you see power play one, Huberdeau, 7,300. Power play one, Hornqvist, first game back in a while, 7,400. So, like, is this a better spot going against the Blue Jackets than the Rangers are going against the Sabres? No. I mean, it's close. I mean, the Blue Jackets aren't great, but, the Sabres are way worse. So I guess, like, if you want to stack the top line, that's fine. Verhaeghe's on the top power play unit. He's 6,000, and Mason Marchment is 2,600. And he, that's a price you can put him in at. But, like, I don't know I don't want to play 15% Mason Marchment. Like, I don't think he's had a point with Barkov this season. So if you want to do like a Barkov, Verhaeghe, Huberdeau, like, you're getting into like 21, 22,000. Like, it's tough. Certainly you can do it, but you're going to have to really go to like some depth, like maybe some like Ottawa or like some depth like Rangers 3 or some other like really cheap line like Jeff Carter, Velarde. But like really it is limiting my exposure, especially at the ownership on the Panthers here. I think, you can power play stack. I think you can full stack that second line if you want to put in Wenberg or, swap out Wenberg for Barkov, but it's very price prohibitive and you're going to have to get pretty creative. So really, I do like the Panthers, but it's price is what's keeping me underweight. And then the Blue Jackets is just a mess. So I might have a one-off here and there.
I will tell you, I think I have more exposure to Blue Jackets forwards than Florida forwards in this game. And for two reasons. One, the ownership that we talked about. Now, I imagine it comes down, but I assume that Florida is going to be very popular here tonight. We had Barkov at, I think we had his line at like 8%. I imagine that comes up a little bit as the implied goal total has been rising throughout the day.
Well, they didn't have an ownership projection on Barkov. That's why it was 8%, but they currently have Verhaeghe at 22% and Marchment at 15%.
Yeah, I assume that line is probably going to be around 15% or so. And like, one of the big reasons we played Florida this year is the power play, right? The power play has been absolutely incredible most of the season. Columbus is the least penalized team in hockey. Like, if Florida only gets one power play here tonight, like, would you still stack them for, like you said, 22 or 23K? Like, just no. I'm out. I'm out on Florida here tonight. I'm going to one-off some guys. Like, I think people are going to be off Frank Petrano because he's going to be off top power play units. So that's probably when I move on to him. Like, I'll one-off Petrano. Like, I think Keith Yandel makes sense as a one-off here tonight, believe it or not, because he was playing both ends of the power play in the last game. If he does that, he can have a great night without Florida one having a great night, right? So I don't mind one off in Yandle here tonight, but that's about it. Like one off in Toronto, one off Yandle. That's it for me. Columbus side, it's kind of the same thing. Like you said, how do you stack these lines? You don't. I think the closest I've gotten is I have a 2-man Tessier Jenner, and that's about it. Jenner, Foligno, Tessier, those are the only players I'm focused on for Columbus forwards. On the blue line, like I said, I love Yandle here tonight. On the Jacket side, like I might play Werenski in some lineups. I have Jenner, but that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Werenski and Jones, if you have the space. Savard, if you want to get punty. But really, like, if you want to, on the Florida side, you want to go, Yandle's completely fine. DFS Darling, Gustav Forsling, sure. But really, I'm probably going to be on defenseman in other games.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but I assume it's Mr. Lickens night.
I do like Merzlikins, but 7,300, I might look elsewhere. But, you know, the Panthers have like the top shot rate in one of the top shot rates in the NHL. So I think Merzlikins makes sense if you're fading the Flyers. It's just so hard to trust towards coach teams, but I do like Mr. Lickens.
Yeah, I am also on Mr. Lickens. Florida can generally generate shots. So hopefully Mr. Lickens can get to that 35 save bonus here for us tonight. I'm not going to be heavy, but I will use him. Today's show is sponsored by Jock Market. If you haven't heard, Jock Market has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Forget waiting until the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. With daily markets for NBA, MLB, NHL, and PGA, you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or any game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold them during the game based on your analysis. Download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code Awesemo50 for a $50 bonus on your first deposit. This is an exclusive offer only for the Awesemo community, so make sure you take advantage of it today. That's Awesemo50 for a $50 bonus at our show sponsor, Jock Market. While we're here, White Claw, get at us. If you want to sponsor this show too, we would more than welcome those White Claw bucks. So White Claw, hit us up. Let's finish this slate off a little bit. We're going into Montreal with a 3.7 implied goal total. The visiting team is Ottawa with a 2.4 implied goal total. Carey Price expected to start for the Habs in net. The Ottawa Senators changed up their lines a little bit. Most notably, like they kept Tierney, Batherson, and Stützle together, but most notably Nick Paul jumped to the top line with Tkachuk and Norris. So I imagine Ottawa might be useful as some sort of filler stack tonight. So we need to talk about both sides. What do you like, Josh?
Yeah, I'll talk about Ottawa first. And I wish like Stützle and Batherson had anyone but Chris Tierney centering them. But I still like them as a duo just because the Habs take a bunch of penalties and their penalty kill is suspect. So I think, you know, Stützle at 3,600, Batherson 4,400, they're 8,000 for the duo. You can put them in what you bought. You know, you're going to get some power play one there. That's really how you want to attack the Canadiens because 5-on-5, even though they did mix up their lines, you can't. It's a tough matchup for the Senators 5-on-5, where the Senators are going to do their damage would be on the power play. And I think, you know, Stützle and Batherson's my favorite duo. If you want to one-off Brady Tkachuk, I know it's expensive, but I think that is perfectly fine as well. Other than that, like I don't think I want to full stack any of these lines here. I really just want to get some power play exposure. And then on the Montreal side, the top line, one of my favorite plays of the night. Danault is off the power play, but I think that will depress his ownership. And I think you can get that trio at a bit lower than what they're projected as individuals, Tatar, Danault, Gallagher. And then they moved Corey Perry into the top six. I mean, it's listed as the top six, but I'm expecting Drouin, Kotkaniemi, Toffoli to play those second line minutes. Although, you know, with Montreal, they do kind of spread out the ice time pretty evenly. So I'd imagine they'll all be around the same, but I prefer that Drouin, Kotkaniemi, Toffoli line. way more than I do the Perry Suzuki Anderson. If you want to duo Suzuki and Anderson for the power play, I think that's perfectly fine. But full stacking wise, I like Montreal 1 the best, and I like the Kotkaniemi, Toffoli, Drouin line and pieces of that second line. If you want a full stack, like Suzuki, Anderson coming in around 9%, Perry around 6%. But if you do include Perry, I think that trio is going to be way lower owned as the 3.
Yeah, I was with you on the Montreal 1 train earlier today until our ownership run came out, and it's the ownership that has moved me off Montreal 1. We have them coming in around 14%, which would be our third highest owned line, and it makes sense, right? Like this is, they have a high implied total. They're a great line. It's a great matchup, all that. Like I'm not gonna say no to stacking Montreal 1. It's just when I have a limited amount of lineups, you kind of have to take a stand, and I'm going down to Montreal 3, Kotkaniemi, and Toffoli with Drouin. One reason our ownership right now is pretty much in check for them. We have them coming in at about between 5 and 6%, which is, I think, perfectly fine for a filler line on an 8-game slate. If assuming Toffoli comes in and takes the no spot on the power play, you would get Drouin and Toffoli on the same power play unit at least. I know Montreal's power play is not something you normally target the Habs for, but it is nice to have that. And I will say, it was a while ago they gave Carey Price a few games off, like to work with the goalie coach. They brought in like some sort of coach or something like that. He's been pretty good for like the last little while. So that's what's kind of keeping me away from Ottawa here. Like normally I'm pretty gung-ho on stacking Sens. I think if I were to do it, I would agree with what you said about Batherson and Stutzla. That would be the duo I would go to. 1, because they'll avoid the Danault line at 5-on-5, and 2, because they're on the same power play, and I think the Montreal penalty kill can be had a little bit. So I agree with you there that if I was going to stack anything from Ottawa, it'd be Stutzla, Batherson, but I'm mostly out on them. For me, it's the Kotkaniemi line in Montreal that I'm most interested in. On the blue line, really cheap Kulak is interesting me, but honestly, I like Petrie's price came down, so I guess Petrie's fine as a one-off. What do you like?
Yeah, I don't really like much. I wanted to play Zaitsev, but he's back up to 4,000. I like him, and when he's in the threes, I guess 4,000 is not much higher than 3,800, but still, like it feels worse clicking in a 4,000 player than the 30. Like it's a mental thing. I don't know how to explain it, but like I don't want to pay 4,000 for Zaitsev. If he's 3,800, I'd be like, let's do it. But really, outside of correlating with Shabbat or Weber, Kulak makes sense. My boy Artie Zub, if you need a punt. But other than that, this is another game where I'm going to look elsewhere for defensemen.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about in net? I see, like I said, Carey Price is confirmed to start. Matt Murray was taken off IR a couple days ago, didn't start Thursday. They haven't announced their goalie yet for tonight. I'm thinking Murray might be starting.
I would imagine it's Murray. It just So I guess it's if you're fading, like if you're MMEing and you have some non-Montreal lineups, I think Murray makes sense because he's going to see the volume. But I'd rather play Merzlikins. I'd rather play Ullmark. But yeah, this is another goalie that's going to see some volume and is cheap, so I think you have to consider him. But he is definitely behind Merzlikins and Ullmark for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's get to our next game. Probably won't take a lot of time to get through it, considering we saw this game last night. We have the St. Louis Blues go with a 2.2 implied goal total going into Colorado. The Blues have a 3.4 implied goal total. If you're wondering why St. Louis's implied goal total might have dropped from yesterday, we have Jonas Johansson was in net yesterday, so I assume Philip Grubauer is going to be it today. Jordan Binnington started yesterday for the Blues, so it's probably going to be Ville Husso, but that's not confirmed yet. What do you like here? I know where I'm going. What do you like?
I'm kind of off the Blues today. I mean, I was off them yesterday. I did say, you can one-off Hoffman, something like that. I don't really want a full stack against the Avs. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. Now they have their goalie in there. I mean, even Jonas Johansson, only gave up 2 goals. So, if you want to go back to the Blues, I'll say a prayer for you before the lock. But really this game is about the Avs for me. I think there's definite merit going back to the Avs top line. I think you can power play stack him. Donskoy is still on that top power play. His price is still reasonable. I know Nichushkin was out with an upper body injury. I don't know if it's short-term or long-term. He might not play tonight. JT Compher would still be there. So that takes me off the third line a little bit as a full stack. I like Nichushkin way better than I like JT Compher. So I think, the top line for the Avs makes sense. Going back to the second line makes sense. They had a decent game last night. But really, this is about Colorado 1, Colorado power play. And really, outside of some one-offs on the Blues, I'm pretty much off the Blues tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was only on the Blues last night because Jonas Johansson was in net. I'm not going to be on the Blues with a better goalie in net. So, I'm out on St. Louis tonight. I'm focusing more on Colorado too. They're going to play more against the second and third lines. Colorado won pretty much hard match against Ryan O'Reilly, which is great if you want to use Colorado depth, because that means you don't get Ryan O'Reilly get in your matchup. So Colorado 2 is probably where I'm going to focus more for my ownership. Saad and Kadri and those guys. On the blue line, nothing on the St. Louis side for me. Colorado, I'm probably just gonna I'm not gonna be correlating because I'm not playing Colorado 1. So I might be playing some Girard or some Graves or something like that.
Yeah, I think Taves, Girard, Graves, Makar. If you're using the top line, Makar makes sense. If you're using that second line, you can use Taves or Girard or go down to Graves.
Yep. I agree with that. In net, Grubauer at 8,300 doesn't really do it for me. Husso at 6,800 would kind of interest me because I'll play almost any goalie at 6,800, but he's not confirmed. And Bennington's $200 more expensive, and it's a late game. So,
yeah, I agree. That would keep me off Husso, and also keeping me off Husso is he is terrible. So,
that's probably a better reason too.
Yeah, but I like these cheap goalies that we mentioned before much better. If you want to use Husso and you're playing Blues, I guess if you're correlating with Blues, you might as well just completely go off the reservation and plug Husso in. So other than that, I think I'm off him.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. One of the biggest edges in sports betting is always shopping to find the best line. Betting lines change by the minute and can vary greatly depending on which book you are using. That's why it's important to use Awesemo's Odd Shopper to find the best line available on the game or player prop you're betting on and give you that edge to help you beat the house. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com where we compile the best bets available for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. So if you're a sports bettor, head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com and shop around for your odds. All right, we've got 7 minutes, we've got 2 games, and we've got our hat trick picks. Let's get to them. Minnesota, 2.6 implied goal total going into Vegas. Vegas has a 3.0 implied goal total. Cody Glass got called up from Vegas, so I assume Cody Glass is going to go to the top line with Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone. Probably going to, and I assume the Wild are going to run back the same line, so there might be interest on both sides here. What do you like, Josh?
Was it? I see Greenway, Eriksson, Kaprizov.
Yeah, that should be their top line.
So if they're going to send out the Carlson line against them, that's going to take me off it. I know Kaprizov isn't very good defensively, but Eriksson and Greenway are excellent defensively. So that's going to keep me off that Vegas second line. Their ownership is I don't even see ownership on them. So I don't know what their ownership is. I would imagine they're going to be moderately popular, but going into Eriksson, Greenway, that's not something I want to do. If you want to use them in MME, for the power play, I think that's perfectly fine. But in 1 to 3, I'm looking better spots. And then, with Cody Glass being back with Stone and Pacioretty, that line's pretty high event. But I do really love Stone and Pacioretty together. You want to put in Glass. If he's there, that's perfectly acceptable. They're going to get, probably the Rask. Bonino Fiala line, I think, that is a decent matchup for them. So for me, Vegas 1, I'm in on that. Vegas 2, I'm going to fade and maybe have some in MME. On the wild side, I think for me, if I was going to go to a line, it'd be that third line: Johansson, Hartman, Zuccarello. They're going to get the depth of the Knights, and I think they can exploit that somewhat. I mean, Vegas is a good defensive team; they're one of the better teams in the NHL. So really, I'm going to be under under the field on the Wild. I just think it's a tough matchup. The total's low. Their lines aren't the best for DFS, so I think I'm just going to be under the field, but I do like that third line a little bit. You're muted, Cliffy.
My mistake. I should try to talk when I'm unmuted. Vegas 1 is my favorite line on the entire slate here tonight. I know I said that last night about Toronto, and look what happened. The reason for that is, like you mentioned, it's the line matching. With Vegas 2 going up against Eriksson Ek, that takes the tough line matching out of play for Vegas. So that leaves Stone and Pacioretty to go up, like you said, against Bonino and Rask or whatever. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. So I am heavy on Stone, Pacioretty, and Glass tonight. That line is probably going to get like Martinez and Pietrangelo on the blue line. So I'm trying to mix in those defensemen when I can. On the Minnesota side, I'm just one-offing, guys. There's no line I'm stacking here. Bonino is one of my favorite one-offs actually on this entire slate. He was getting some power play time last game. He's moved up to the top 6. So I don't mind Bonino here. But it's all about Vegas 1 for me. On the blue line, I'm just correlating with my Vegas forwards with the power plays, and that's about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a lean on, I don't know, Matt Dumba is down to 4,100. I think you can play him. I'd rather play him than 4,000 Nikita Zaitsev in that range. So really, on the Vegas side, I am going to just correlate with the lines that I'm using. If you want to, one-off somebody, dump down Braden McNabb makes sense, but other than that, I'm just going to correlate.
Yep, I'm with you on correlating. I don't mind Fleury in this game. I'm using Fleury even as a one-off where we're not necessary, just because I think he might end up seeing some shot volume. Like Vegas's defensive numbers have been sliding a little. What do you think?
Yeah, and he's at home and under 8,000, so I think there's definite merit to that.
All right, let's get to our last game then. We have the San Jose Sharks with a 2.6 implied goal total going into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.9 implied goal total. The big note, I think, is probably the Kings line changes last night. They moved Anze Kopitar down to play with Adrian Kempe, and then Dustin Brown and Alex Iafallo moved in along with Jared Anderson-Dolan. Not really great lines. I guess like Kempe and Kopitar might be of interest because they're on the same power play together, but it's just a replay of what we had last night. So what do you like tonight?
I mean, with this being the late game and there's questions about the lines, and I really wanted to get behind the Kings here because Devin Dubnyk's in that, but Marty Jones just shut them out last night. So like it is kind of a tough spot. And if Kings, like we currently have like old King, like I would imagine Kopitar, Iafallo, Brown start together at least because, they switched up the lines after they were getting blown out. So if they go back to that, like the ownership on them is just so high and it's not a great matchup going into Couture. So I think I'm just going to be off the Kings top line. Where I'm going to be on the Kings again is Velarde Carter. They're going to get the depth of the Sharks, and that's where you really want to go at them. They're not very good defensively. So, Velarde Carter, they didn't have a good game last night, but they're only 7,100 as a duo. It allows you to get in the more expensive stuff. They're correlated on the second power play unit. Not that they see a ton of time, but they will see some time. So that's where I want to go there. I do like Adrian Kempe as a one-off, especially if they do mix up their lines. He will see some time with Kopitar. He is on the power play, so I like him as a one-off. And then on the Sharks side, I'm probably off the Kings top line in 1 to 3, but in MME, it does make sense going against Quick. Where I'm concentrating on the Sharks is the Hurdle, Meyer, Balcers line. They're going to avoid Kopitar. They're going to get the depth of the Kings, which is where you want to attack them. The Kings have been a good team all season, which has been a tad surprising, but still they had a great game last night. Their ownership is fairly in check. They're not overpriced, so I think you can go back to Sharks 2 tonight.
Yeah, I really love the Sharks second line here tonight. I don't feel like it's chasing points because we almost bring up the Sharks second line almost every time that they play. Hurdle, Meyer, and Balcers in 98 minutes together this year, 3.2 expected goals for, 1.9 expected goals against, 63.5% expected goals share. That is just a phenomenal line. I love San Jose 2 tonight, so I'm mixing a lot of them in. They're one of my favorite filler lines. I'm just going to correlate my goalies, like correlate Dubnyk. That's about it. Not really targeting either goalie as a one-off.
Yeah, I don't really like either of these goalies. It's like I see all these people on Twitter clamoring how Dubnyk is way worse than Marty Jones, which is just crazy to me. But like, but maybe I'm just horrifically biased. But like, I don't love Dubnyk or Quick tonight, so I think correlating just makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick pick here in a second. My hat trick pick, last time I went a bit chalk and it just completely screwed me. So I'm not going to do that again tonight. I'm going to go Capo Caco hat trick pick. What do you think?
All right. I'm going Tomas Hertl.
All right. I like that. Well, we're on both lines, so I guess it kind of makes sense. We're going to be off for tomorrow. We're going to be back on Monday. I believe it's you and Terry are going to be doing the Monday show. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and watching us here today. For producer Chris, for Joshua Harris over here, Johnny Cage like Joshua Harris. This is Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Good luck tonight and happy Easter, everybody.